The Power Play Post Show is on the air, covering minor league hockey since 2003, and now covering the Binghamton Black Bears with news, reactions, and in-depth interviews only heard here. And now, from the Box Studios in Kirkwood, New York, here are your hosts of the Power Play Post Show, Bob Howard and Taylor Welch.
And hello, everybody. Welcome to another edition of the Power Play Post Show. This is the show for March 9th, 2026. This is season 15, episode number 51, and episode number 565 in the long-running podcast. It is the Power Play Post Show. Hopefully, everybody, you survived Parade Day here in Binghamton if you partaked in any of that. I did not, and I never usually do. But if you did, hopefully you survived that pretty good. I am your host, Bob Howard. She is
Taylor Welch.
And Taylor Welch will be taking over the podcast basically this upcoming Wednesday into Thursday, doing a lot of asking a lot of questions, basically. You'll find out more about that this upcoming Thursday on the Power Play Post Show. Taylor, are you ready for that? Are you feeling comfortable enough? Are you excited about this?
All of the above. I do feel comfortable. But that is not to say that I'm not also nervous at the same time, mostly because I've never interviewed a single person in my life.
Yeah.
And even like on the other end of that, I don't think I've done many interviews. I've only had a couple of jobs in my lifetime. And my first job I ever had, my interview, I went there and they told me the manager wasn't there. And then I spoke to one other person. She tried to get me to talk to the assistant manager. And he's like, I don't have time. And then they called me back and said that I was hired. So I didn't really have an interview for that. So even interviews in general is not something that I've really done much in my life. I am excited. You got a little preview of my questions. I didn't give you too much detail.
No.
Just, enough to kind of pique your interest maybe a little bit. So I think it'll be fun. I think I've got some good questions. My last question is probably going to be one of my favorites. It's just going to be for fun and some giggles. And I hope everybody enjoys it. It should be a good time. Now,
my question to you, or my kind of response to what you just said there, is this is still going to be a conversation. And that's how I always try to make my interviews with players is very conversational, right? Don't want to make it sound like he's applying for a job on the Power Play Post Show, which, we'd never get a word of inchwise if we did that, but that's okay. I think it's gonna be a lot of fun. I think it's gonna be great. The fans are gonna love it. I think you're gonna really enjoy it, and it's just gonna be a great experience. And I'm so very happy that we're gonna do that. We're gonna be at the arena. I'm gonna watch practice. I think you're gonna come for probably some of the practice, hopefully, and we'll be set up and ready to go. And it's gonna be a lot of fun. We're gonna have a couple great interviews. I also have another interview planned with a gentleman, Brian Lang, from the Hockey for Hope charity, which will be having a game on March 28th. It's a Saturday. I think the Black Bears are on the road. They wore the Hockey for Hope warm-up jerseys last year on the same day that they had the game as well. So it's going to be a lot of fun. We do have the game coming up against the Port Huron Prowlers this upcoming Friday, which we'll talk about at the end of this podcast. And Taylor, let's talk a little bit about Watertown in these games, get a kind of high level thoughts from this weekend. One of the questions I kind of proposed, and I'm kind of curious on your thought on this. Did Watertown play better defensively on Friday, or did we just play better offensively on Saturday? What's your take on what really happened in those two games? Or did Watertown play the same both days and we just got better on offense? Or did their defense just not show up on Saturday and we still played the same?
Honestly, I think it's a little bit of both. I mean, Friday, I think Watertown that's probably the best we've seen them play.
Sure.
I haven't, seen them play their other games, so I couldn't, attest to that at all. But I definitely think Friday night for Watertown was the best that they've played against us. And, I don't know if maybe Bree and Gonzalez kind of maybe lit something under them. They went out there and really played with what they had. Defensively, they played an excellent game on Friday. They were able to kind of, do some things with our defense that doesn't happen too often, or at least not often enough where, it's an actual mistake that leads to a goal. And that happened, twice in that game. And then I think, something that we've talked about many times on the show is just how much that the Black Bears and Brant and, Coach Q can, go from one game and just jump to the next game, and they have a different game plan. They're constantly evolving to either play better, to do better, to change things, do whatever they need to do, which is why, we've talked that playing the Black Bears is such a hard thing to do because they're constantly changing how they're playing the game. So just because you face them earlier on in the season doesn't mean you're going to face that team later in the season. And I think maybe that's kind of what we saw, Friday to Saturday. And I definitely think that the Black Bears put on a ton of pressure in Saturday's game, and they just decided to kind of show up and show Watertown that they're not going to lay down and let them kind of do what they did in Friday's game.
Very interesting thoughts there. Let me ask you this question, though. Keep you talking and keep me quiet here for a second longer. What are we going to see in the playoffs? Are we going to see more of a Friday night version of a game or a Saturday night version of a game?
I think it's going to depend. Different opponents call for different reactions. If we're facing, let's say, I'm just going to use Port Huron because they're going to be our next opponent. Facing against Port Huron, there's way more physicality involved in that game than if you're facing like Danbury. Danbury hasn't been that physical this year. There's been, a couple hits here and there, but nothing of the nature that's going to really warrant the physicality. And it's mostly just been like a good back and forth hockey. So I think it's going to depend on the opponent more than anything else. But I also think that, you might see a Friday game, maybe, but I really do think they're going to be more Saturday games. And
really?
Especially if you have a Friday game, I definitely think you're going to see them fire back with a Saturday game.
So you think there's going to be more high scoring games in the playoffs when we are meeting up with some of these teams than we will the Friday night games, which will be more of a tight defensive battle?
Yeah, I think it's gonna definitely depend on the opponent in that situation. Okay. For me, that's really what's going to come down to.
Well, I think it's really, we're unsure. I don't know, because like in our first round, unless somehow Danbury catches up and, surpasses either Topeka or Blue Ridge, which I don't know if there's enough time for them to do that with, 3 points being available for every single win. It's so difficult. If Danbury loses one and Topeka and Blue Ridge win one, boom, they're that's already 6 points that are kind of lost on Danbury's end. I don't know what we're going to get. I don't know what's going to happen when Binghamton plays Blue Ridge for the first time, if they do play them in the first round of the playoffs, or Topeka for the first time. I don't know, because we didn't play them. It's part of the reason why I've complained about the schedule all year long, but now we're getting to the nitty-gritty of why the schedule matters so much. Not playing these two teams that will be potentially, one of them will be our first round matchup. I don't know. I don't know if we're going to. I think this past weekend, the most important game was Friday night's game. Winning a tight defensive battle, 3-2, I think is more important than winning 10-2. And the reason why I say that is because I don't think we're going to see Saturday's game anywhere in the playoffs. I don't think we're going to beat a team in the playoffs 10-2. But we're going to have to win more than one 3-2 game, 4-3 game, 2-1 game. So I think Friday night's game was just very, very important.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that logic by any means. I definitely think that Friday's game was more important. And, every once in a while, those tight games really kind of keep you on the edge of your seat. And, you never know what's going to happen by the end of the game.
Right.
But for me personally, I just think that there's something about the way the Black Bears go out there on the ice. And if you compare that to the teams that we have faced, and again, this is, kind of goes with your logic as well, because, there are teams that we haven't faced that we could in the playoffs. And but just basing it off the logic of if you compare them to how the other teams that we have faced looked, the competitiveness is there, the hungriness is there, the wanting to win, which I think is the biggest key factor, is there. And that's lacking in a lot of the other teams this year, is that they're struggling so much with, trying to form solid teams that, we talked about Danbury building a team to just beat Binghamton and how kind of silly that was.
It is.
And, they built a team and, they squeaked out a shootout win, and it was like the highlight of their year. And to me, that's not something that other teams are going to see very often. And that's just kind of my logic with it, is that the other teams that we have seen so far this year just don't have the ability to keep up with the Black Bears mindset.
Now, you brought up something very interesting about the Danbury hat tricks, and let's follow up a little bit on how they did this weekend versus, I think they played against Blue Ridge. Okay. So they built a team to beat Binghamton, right? And so they beat us 4-3 in the shootout in our home territory, right? They then won 2-1 against Blue Ridge on this past Friday, and then they lost 4-2 to Blue Ridge on Saturday. So they split the last 2 weekends. They won one against us, they lost one against us. They won one against Blue Ridge, they lost one against Blue Ridge. So what it really comes down to is what we've been saying all along. You need to build your team to play your style of hockey that you can win at, that someone else cannot win at. And I think that's very important. All right. Well, let's get into this because we have a lot of stuff to talk about. There's a lot of milestones, a lot of firsts, a lot of things to get into. The Power Play Post is available on all major podcast platforms, including Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Pocket Cast, YouTube, Amazon Music, and iHeartRadio. Just search Power Play Post Show on your favorite app, and don't forget to subscribe. Join the conversation on Facebook. Search for Power Play Post Show and become part of our community. Looking for everything Binghamton hockey, visit binghamtonhockey.net. And we don't have a guest for this show, but I am running an ad. I'm going to run a little bit of an ad that Gary Ryan did for the New Jersey game. Now, why is the New Jersey game so important? Because if they show the arena management there in Menin, at the Menin Arena, which is in North New Jersey, if they show that organization there, that FPHL fans are going to show up and they're going to come see hockey, then it's a very good possibility we can get a team in there. And I think that's an important part of keeping the Northeast quadrant of the FPHL healthy and strong. As I've complained many times about playing 33 games against just two opponents, not good for us, not good for Watertown, as Justin Coachman brought up, and of course not good for Danbury as well. So hopefully getting a team in there would be helpful. So we're going to run that ad a little bit later on in between the two games that we talk about.
And I don't know if it was planned or not, but I think it's kind of a good thing that it's kind of Danbury versus Watertown.
Yes.
Just because I think they're closely evenly matched. So it should be, a good game. And, if you look at it that, well, they're not the highest teams in the league, but they're drawing in a fan base, it would be just beneficial all around instead of having like the number 1 team face like the number, 7 team, because that you can't always rely on your team coming in and being, number 1 all the time. And so I definitely think it was a great choice. I don't know if it was planned that way or not, but I hope it works out.
Yeah. If it was Binghamton against Watertown and then Binghamton beat them, 10-2, what's that going to show a fan in New Jersey?
Right.
That wouldn't be good. But if it's Watertown versus Danbury and it's a 4-3 final, and you had 2 fights in the game, you had, some great goaltending, that's going to sell tickets in the future. That type of thing. Yeah, for sure. All right, Black Bear fans, do us a quick favor. If you're watching on YouTube, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and ring that notification bell so you never miss an episode of the show. If you're listening on Spotify, make sure you're following the podcast and leave us a rating. It's completely free to do. It takes 2 seconds, and it tells YouTube and Spotify to push the show out to more Binghamton Black Bear fans and more hockey fans just like you. Drop a comment, too. We read them, and we love hearing from you. And if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, please also leave a rating on there. That is very helpful as well. Okay, let's get into Friday night's game.
Black Bears on Friday night win in Watertown 3-2. March 6, 2026, Watertown Arena, game 45 of the season. Binghamton Black Bears at Watertown Wolves. The opening period in Watertown got off to a quick start as the Wolves struck almost immediately. Just 24 seconds into the game, Yefim Mishkin found the back of the net to give the home team a 1-0 lead, finishing a play set up by Darian Benchik and Aaron Atwell. The Black Bears responded quickly and evenly, and even the score not long after. At the 2:30 mark of the first period, CJ Stubbs netted his 32nd goal of the season, tying the game 1-1. Austin DeRazio and Dan Stone, who returned to the lineup after his stint in the SPHL with Roanoke, picked up the assist on the play. Binghamton had to kill off the first penalty of the night when Dan Stone was called for tripping at the 5:15 mark, but the league's top-ranked penalty kill held strong and kept the Wolves from regaining the lead. Later in the period, Watertown's Igor Filipov was whistled for hooking at the 18:31 mark, giving the Black Bears their first power play opportunity of the evening, though they were unable to convert before the horn. After 20 minutes of play, the game remained tied 1-1, with the Wolves holding a slight edge in shots on goal, 14-10.
Okay, so now what's interesting about this game, about this weekend, the scratches were Kyle Steffen, Garrett Sargis, which I think his birthday was on Saturday, correct?
Yes, same as Kelly.
And we had gotten, yes, happy birthday, Kelly. I'm glad you got a poster this weekend. And I'm glad that you had, obviously, a great weekend with the Black Bears winning and Cheech getting his goal on Saturday as well. So that turned out pretty well. But what was interesting is we kind of knew that Garrett was going to be scratched on Friday because a certain person saw Garrett downtown in Binghamton. And we're not going to say anything more than that. But, you know, I got a message basically saying, hey, is Garrett playing tonight? I was like, I don't know. I mean, as far as I knew he was. I mean, the lines that I got on Wednesday from Coach pretty much said that. But apparently he did not play. Cheech was also scratched on Friday, as well as Sam Hawley, Matthew York, and Wyatt Freelander, which I only just put Freelander down there. I don't know why I just went just with Freelander. The starters in the game were Gavin Yates, Tyson Kirkby, Zach Sirota, Jesse Anderson, Scott Ramakers, and Dominic Tomei. Now, Marshall McKallip is the backup behind Tomei. Now, obviously, he got his not two starts, but he dressed for 2 games this weekend, which is good because he needs 3 more of those to be eligible for the playoffs. This period might be tied after 1 period, but the Wolves dictated a lot of the pace of the game. No way Brant Sherwood is happy with the first period for the Black Bears. Now, let me ask you about that. I know you were obviously watching from home because you guys did not go to the game, but I felt like in the first period that the Wolves did kind of carry the pace of the game a little bit. They did have the early shots on goal lead, 14-10, but it did feel like that the Wolves were they were able to kind of cut around and past the Black Bears a little bit, especially defensively. And I think it was very important for the Black Bears to be tied at 1-1 because it could have been a little bit worse than that.
Yeah, I definitely think that Watertown had more control over the first period, and they had the ability to kind of come in and break up some of the plays for the Black Bears and kind of just kind of take them off the edge a little bit, and make them out of place, and just kind of come in, and they were able to break up our defense. I think more than we've seen probably in any other game. And I think that's kind of what really helped them, maintain a strong advantage during the first period, even though it was tied.
Yeah, Michigan is one of those players who's just going to be able to score on the Black Bears. He always finds a lane. He always finds a way to get the puck in the back of the net. No surprise in the Stubbs scoring just a couple minutes after the Michigan goal. Black Bears, in my opinion, needed to pick up the control of the puck and the pace of the game into the second period. Power play opportunities, Binghamton didn't have any, and Watertown 0 for 1. One of the nice things, Taylor, we don't see a lot of penalties between these two teams.
Yeah, that was one thing that kind of surprised me. I mean, even as we'll talk about in Saturday's game, that it picked up a little bit in the third period, but even then there was a handful of penalties between both games. At least for the Black Bears, I think we had 4 totals or 6 total or something like that.
Yeah, no, for us we only had 3. We had two minor,
like between the two games, I thought.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, it wasn't that many at all. Shots on goal, Binghamton again, 10, Watertown 14. Let's go into the second period.
Watertown reclaimed the lead early in the second period after taking advantage of a turnover by Binghamton in the offensive zone. With the puck turned over near the blue line, Igor Filipov broke in alone on an odd man rush and beat the Black Bears goaltender Dominic Tomei 5-hole at the 4:10 mark, giving the Wolves a 2-1 advantage. Darian Benchik and Yiffa Mishkin were credited with the assist on the play. The Black Bears responded later in the period thanks to another big moment from CJ Stubbs. With 6:05 remaining in the second, Stubbs scored his second goal of the night and 33rd of the season to tie the game 2-2. The play started with a beautiful drop pass from Ivan Bondarenko in front of the Watertown net to Scott Ramakers, who fired the initial shot on the Wolves goaltender Ricardo Gonzalez. Stubbs was in the right place at the right time, which he seems to be in that place a lot this season.
Yes.
Cleaning up the rebound and banging it home to even the score. The middle frame was played cleanly with no penalties called on either team, and after 40 minutes, the teams headed into the second intermission deadlocked at 2-2.
Okay, so the CJ Stubbs goal was just beautiful. It was a drop pass from Ivan Bondarenko to Scott Ramakers, who took the initial shot, and then Stubbs banged home the rebound. To me, when you watch a play like that, and you see a team so in sync, because a lot of times you'll see those drop passes, and the drop pass basically is you're hoping somebody's where you're putting it to, but you can't really see that moment. And Scotty takes a great shot. It goes up in the air, comes right back down, and Gonzalez is just not in the right place, but CJ Stubbs was. It was just a beautiful, beautiful play.
Yeah, Bondarenko tends to do that drop pass a lot, and I'm so glad that it usually works for him, because it's one of those things where it's like if it goes wrong, it's going to go really wrong.
Mm-hmm.
But for Ramakers to take that shot, and I don't know if it got to Gonzalez. I'm pretty sure one of his, I don't remember if it was Zimmerman, but I think it hit off of a player, and then it had Gonzalez just way out, like he was just... He was done at that point. Like there was no way for him to get back into the net in time. And then I'm pretty sure it was Zimmerman who fumbled trying to get the puck away from Gonzalez, and Stubbs just tapped it right on in.
Yeah, it's just one of those plays. And, Stubbs, since he's come back, has had a pretty good streak of scoring. I think it's 5 goals now since he's come back. So between last weekend and these games here this weekend as well. This was a much better period for the Black Bears. They controlled a lot more of the puck. They took a lot of shots and took a commanding lead in the shots and goal department. However, I mean, when it's 2-2 at the end of 2, that still means that the Wolves are still in it. The only critique I had was the turnover that led to the Wolves' second goal of the game, because it was a turnover. And, Taylor, you can't make those mistakes when you're in the playoffs. You just can't, because it could burn you.
Yeah, and I think that's maybe one of the things that was heavily talked about between, the difference in Friday's game to Saturday's game.
Yeah, I agree, because we didn't see that kind of turnover in Saturday's game. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think that's, just kind of, Brant's or even Coach Q. I don't know who's, kind of takes over that part. But I'm sure they talked about it or they reviewed it, and they just, I'm sure it's one of those things that they kind of hone in on and hammer down, and you fix the mistakes while you can, and then you don't make the mistakes anymore.
Yeah. No penalties in the period. We still have only seen 2 penalties, which the Black Bears power play carried over into the second period for 29 seconds. Power play opportunities. We'll say Binghamton 0 for 1 because of the carryover, and then Watertown 0 for 0. Shots on goal. Binghamton 22. Watertown 10, now a total of 32 for Binghamton after 40 minutes, and Watertown 24. And you can see the tide changing, which leads us into the third period, where obviously Scotty Ramakers becomes the hero of the day.
The Black Bears carried their momentum into the third period and finally broke through for their first lead of the night midway through the frame. After Watertown's Adam Zimmerman was called for a hooking at 5:26, the Wolves were whistled again when Ian McDonald took a tripping penalty at 7:41. During the delayed call, Binghamton pulled goaltender Dominic Tomei for the extra attacker, and it paid off as Scott Ramakers fired home his 12th goal of the season to give the Black Bears a 3-2 lead. Gavin Yates and Mac Jansen picked up the assist on the go-ahead goal. The remainder of the period featured series of penalties as the physical play ramped up. Dan Weber and Hunter Hall were both assessed slashing minors at 14-16. Followed shortly after a Matthew Gordon taking a slashing penalty at 14-50. Gordon was sent back to the box again later in the period for cross-checking at 17-16, giving the Black Bears additional power play opportunities. Late in the game, Austin D'Orazio was called for elbowing. Or was this a tripping one? I don't remember which game, because now I think I messed myself up.
That's okay.
So now I'm just going to double-check myself.
Uh-oh.
It was Saturday's game, so this one was the tripping.
Okay.
At 19:44, but Binghamton's top-ranked penalty kill stood tall to secure the victory. The Black Bears controlled the shots total throughout the night, outshooting Watertown 22-10 in the second period and 20-5 in the third, finishing with a commanding 52-29 advantage in shots on goal. Dominic Tomei was solid between the pipes, stopping 27 of 29 shots to earn his 23rd win of the season, improving his record to 23-2-1. With the win, the Black Bears also reduced their magic number from 11 to 8 in their quest to clinch the Empire Division title, continuing their dominant season.
Now, here's the thing. With all the penalties that the Wolves took, and it was only a few, but it was enough and it was spread out enough, I really do think they shot themselves in the foot. I think that if they weren't in the penalty box giving Binghamton all that power play time, they probably would have had a better chance of getting the third goal and tying the game up.
Yeah, it's almost like they got frustrated that they seemed to do, like, this was one of their better games against us.
Right.
And then, Ramakers gave us the go-ahead goal, and I think maybe they just started to get frustrated, or maybe they were just behind, and they just kind of took it out at the wrong time. But, yeah, giving Binghamton power plays, especially late into the game, is never going to work out for the opposing team. Yeah.
The Black Bears not only capitalized on the delayed penalty, and by the way, they did not credit that goal as an extra attacker goal, and they should have. The goaltender was definitely off the ice, and there were, we did bring somebody on, but they didn't do it. So, but Ian McDonald chopped down Sirota and goes in the box for tripping. That was after the play. Ricardo Gonzalez and the Wolves defense deserve credit. The Black Bears in the second period and again in the third were pressuring, and this could have been a 5-2 game. Could have been a 6-2 game if it weren't for the defense and the netminder. What I really liked, what really killed the game, the Wolves, was the penalties. I already talked about that. When you take 5 penalties and give the Black Bears 4 power play opportunities in the last 20 minutes, will not give you your best chance to win. When Austin D'Orazio took a tripping call with 16 seconds left, the Wolves took their time out. Okay. The Wolves were able to get 2 power play shots in the last 16 seconds, but were not able to beat Tomei. Good, gritty win for the Black Bears. They get a lot of shots, but Gonzalez stepped up big against the Black Bears, a team he knows from the playoffs when he played with Motor City. So we can't forget that. Black Bears reduced their magic number to 8 on their own. Now, that's because they got no help from Port Huron, who obviously won on Friday night. Because Indiana lost to them 3-0. Same 2 teams, same time tomorrow, which is Saturday for the 16th game of the season between the 2 teams. And the Black Bears are now 15-1 after Friday night's game against the Wolves. Ugh, just gross. Power play opportunities. Listen, if I was just a regular fan sitting in the stands, I love it. Great. Awesome. We're destroying our competition and whatnot. But as somebody who's watching these games and kind of breaking them down and talking about them so much, I want more competition. Now, the Wolves stepped up on Friday night. They played well. Or maybe the Black Bears didn't play to their potential. I don't know. You could probably, if you asked Brant Sherwood on Monday about Friday night's game, he might say, we played like shit. We should have played better. We should have scored more goals. Now, he doesn't talk that way, but you understand what I'm saying. On Tuesday, you might talk to him and go, well, the Wolves did play pretty good defensively when we went back and looked at the tape, right? So you can go either way on that topic. I know we kind of brought it up earlier in the beginning of the show, but you can really, because then the next night, with almost the same people on the ice, right? Except for that we started a rookie, goaltender that's never played in the thing, and eventually their rookie goaltender who made his debut, Grant Linville. I think Grant.
Yeah. The
Linville.
Linville really threw me through a loop, let me tell you.
Yeah. So, you could go that route too, but again, did we play better on Saturday or did we not play so good on Friday? It's just one of those weird things about the power play opportunities. Binghamton was 0 for 3. Now, that's the one thing I did not like about this weekend. Our power play did not look good at all. Okay, we got one power play goal. That'll be in the Saturday game. That will be Scotty Romaker's. Obviously our penalty kill was good, right? Because we didn't give up any penalty or any power plays to the Wolves, but the power play has started to slow down a little bit, Taylor, and I think we need that to pick back up again before we get into the playoffs.
I definitely get what you're saying, but to me, I know we've talked about it before. As long as the penalty kill is still doing phenomenal, which it has been, I'm okay about the power play.
Okay.
I imagine that it's not easy to kind of, face Watertown over and over and over again. I'm sure they're kind of used to the way our power play is set up. Because as far as, changing the way you play a game compared to changing how you play your power play, I don't think they necessarily change their power play between games that often. I think it's kind of like you have it set up a certain way. So I'm sure facing Watertown X amount of times in, a couple months, they've got to be used to our power play by now. And I think that's kind of maybe what we're seeing. And they had the ability to stop it. Plus, Watertown, I do think, played really well in Friday's game.
Okay. All right. As Taylor said, Black Bears shots on goal was 20. Watertown was 5, 52-29 for the whole. All right. There's not much to read in this one, but let's give them the stats.
Black Bears come back from behind, win 3-2 in Watertown. CJ Stubbs scored his 32nd and 33rd goals of the season. Scott Ramakers scored his 12th goal of the season and assisted on a goal for a 2-point night. Dominic Tomei saved 27 of 29 shots, earning his 23rd win of the season, improving his record to 23-2-1. The Black Bears record improves to 38-5-2 with 113 points, staying atop the Empire Division and reducing the magic number to win the Empire Division to 8.
Yeah, and what's interesting about this, this is the last point I want to make because it's a positive point. The Black Bears were down twice by 1 goal to Watertown, right? And came back. Both goals were CJ Stubbs that did that. And of course, he's put a lot of the weight of the shoulders of the team on his this year. Not that he's had to, because, all the regulars, by the end of this weekend, all the regulars have at least scored a goal, right? We'll talk about that in just a little bit. But realistically, Taylor, maybe the point we haven't talked about enough about Friday night's game, they did come back. The Wolves had a 1-0 lead and a 2-1 lead, and the Black Bears came back and tied it up both times.
Yeah, I think that kind of piggybacks a little bit to the point that I was making before we got into the show about, the difference between the Black Bears and other teams, at least in our division. Just, we haven't played the Continental Division that much this season.
Right.
But just kind of comparing it to other teams, that's just, to me, it's the determination and the want to win. The hate to lose type of mentality, or, whatever it is however you want to word it. I just think, the Black Bears go into a game and, they could go down. They could, have a 5-goal lead and, the other team might score 3 goals and, it gets close again. But the Black Bears have the determination to pull out the win or do whatever they can to at least keep it close or make it so it goes into overtime or it goes into a shootout. They have the ability to kind of play the game where they're not going to let the other team just come in and, take all the points per se, because that's something that we haven't seen that much. And even this season alone, like, we've only lost a couple of games, and most of the other games, it's very close. It's an overtime. It's a shootout. It's something of that nature, especially in, our own division. So I just think it's something that, to me, it's just the determination of the Black Bears that they're going to go into a game and they have the mindset that they're going to do whatever it takes to make sure that they come out on top.
I agree. All right, we're going to take a short break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about Saturday night's game because, more for fun, there was a lot of cool milestones and things that happened in that game that we can talk about. So we'll be right back right after this, right here on the Power Play Post Show.
Hi, everyone. I am Gary Ryan, the Fed League Flash, and I am inviting you to join me at Menin Arena in Morristown, New Jersey on Saturday, March 21st, as the Danbury Hat-Tricks take on the Watertown Wolves at 7 o'clock. This is not an exhibition game. This one counts. So come on out and watch the Wolves and the Hat-Tricks fight for a playoff spot in the Empire Division. Tickets are only $17, and you can order yours by going to https:/e/166276, or you can also call 973-326-7651. Come on out. Show the Menin Arena management that you want FPHL hockey in New Jersey. It's going to be an exciting night of hockey, so let's come on out and pack the house. Wolves, Hat-Tricks, Fed Hockey at Menin Arena in Morristown, New Jersey, just off the intersection of I-80 and I-287, March 21st. I hope to see you there.
If you're a Binghamton hockey fan, then you need to check out binghamtonhockey.net for all your news, stats, information, the Binghamton Hockey Hall of Fame, top 10 lists, profiles, and so much more. That's binghamtonhockey.net. You're listening to the Power Play Post Show.
And welcome back, everybody, to the Power Play Post Show. One of the more interesting things that we found out, believe it or not, during the break, which lasted a little bit longer for us than it did for you. That was probably like maybe 2 minutes for you guys, but for us, it was about 10 minutes because we were looking up an interesting kind of little tidbit that we want to share with you. Now, first of all, as you all know, Matt York, who just joined the team and played his first game on Saturday night, he obviously just, he came over from Elmira College, playing the last 4 years with the Elmira College D3 team, which is a pretty good team. I believe in his sophomore year, they finished in the quarterfinals or the semifinals for the D3 national championship. So he came from a good D3 team. Austin D'Orazio came from an excellent D3 team up in Utica as well, which is very interesting. But the point here is Matt York played in 2017-2018 with the Kempville 73s. Now, Taylor, you're going to tell everybody what two players on the Black Bears also played on that 2017-18 Kempville 73s junior team.
So as we were kind of talking about it, you had mentioned that you just talked to somebody and you could have swore that you remember seeing the name, and you brought up Jacob Shankar. So we started looking, and you and I were kind of going through the roster there, and I happened to notice the other Black Bear player on that list as well.
Which I missed.
And it was none other than our captain, Tyson Kirkby.
Now, none of this surprises me too much, at least with Jacob Shankar and Tyson Kirkby playing at least together for a season in Junior A, and that's because they are friends. They know each other. Their families are friends with each other, so it's not a surprise. But then, Taylor, you told me a little bit of a story from Saturday night's game in Watertown, where there were some possibly other college kids came to come see Jacob Shankar and we're hoping to hang out with him, correct?
Yeah, at least I'm going to assume they're college kids. I'm not entirely sure. That's kind of the vibe that I was getting.
Right.
And, before warmups were going on, I kind of happened to just kind of pick up what they were talking about. And I look over and I realized that it was Tyson's mom that was talking to them. And at this point, York had come out to do his rookie lap. And, they kind of started talking about him. And then that's when they had brought up that his dad was an NHLer, and they started talking about him even more. So it was a very interesting conversation. It's kind of interesting what you can hear kind of throughout the families that come to these games and kind of pick up on some stuff that happens.
Yeah, and just for everybody to know, Jason York played in the NHL. That's Matt's dad. And Matthew York is Jason York's son, and he played 757 games in the NHL, which I think is just awesome. He started his career off with the Adirondack Red Wings, won a championship in 91-92 with the Red Wings. He only played, I think, 5 games in the playoffs, but he was a part of that championship team. And then he made his debut in the NHL in 92-93 for the Detroit Red Wings, got a couple games in there. He didn't become a regular until like the 5th year. So what's interesting to me is that he started off in the AHL and kind of moved his way up into the NHL and earned his spot in the NHL. And then you have his son, who is playing single A hockey, just coming out of a great 4 years with Elmira College. Both are defensemen, but I found it very interesting because now if you think about it, Taylor, we have John Quenneville, who played 42 games in the NHL. We have, let's see here, we have, this is our NHL connection. We have, Matt York, his father played in the NHL. It's just
Kyle Steffen's got, some connections there.
Well, his father worked for the New York Rangers for a very long time. So there's a lot of that. And of course, he played D1 hockey himself. So it's a very interesting thing that when you bring in high level people with the lineage, and when I say lineage, I really truly mean that the people that spawned these kids, these players that are playing for us, that have these NHL connections. This is the reason why I say, the Binghamton Black Bears and Andreas and Brant and John Quenneville, putting these teams together, they have gone out of their way to make it the best that they can. And I truly believe that when you look at the history of single A hockey, and we're talking about, of course, the SPHL, which is near 20 years, and of course the FPHL, which is now in its 16th season, this might be the best put together team the last couple years of the Binghamton Black Bears in all of single A hockey, because there are so many relationships that you can then go and point to the NHL. And look at Dylan Konecki. He just went to the AHL's Bridgeport Islanders to be their EQ manager. In a few years, he could be in the NHL as an EQ manager. There's a lot of relationships. There's a lot of connections between Binghamton hockey right now and the NHL, even though we have no affiliation with the NHL anymore, yet we have a relationship that still is strong, like the history of Binghamton hockey with the NHL. I just find that very interesting.
I find it hysterical because, a couple of weeks ago we were talking about how, hockey in itself kind of continues to grow, and it's, ever evolving and just expanding everywhere. And yet, you kind of look at this situation and it's just, it seems like it's such a close-knit community. I mean, we talk with Steve McAnanum all the time, and anytime Connor goes somewhere, he plays against somebody, he goes, oh, well, he played against this guy in this team, or when he was in juniors, or when he was doing this, or when he was doing that. So it's so funny to kind of see like all the connections that are everywhere. And a lot of this, I think, just comes back to like how well Brant is at recruiting. Yeah. Because he knows what he's doing. He knows what he's looking for. And truly, as much as I think the league dislikes Brant, I think the league could use more of Brant, finding somebody who could scout people the way that Brant does. Right. Because obviously it works.
Well, there's another aspect to this, right? You can scout people and recruit people and bring in good players. But if you aren't able to build culture within the locker room, you're never going to win. So I think that's another aspect that Brant does very well. And I think, when you think about it, when you look at Tyson Kirkby, you look at Jacob Shankar, there's a lot of people who love both players. And you can say this or that about players when they come in, how they interact with fans, how they don't interact with fans, that type of thing. But I think both of those players know what it means to engage with the hockey community here in Binghamton, and they've done such a good job of that. I can only imagine that Matt York, being somebody who, played on a junior A hockey club, the same one that these guys attended, probably has some of the same characteristics, especially if Brant Sherwood talked to the Elmira College coach and said, yeah, this is a guy we want to bring in. So I think that bodes well for the future of Binghamton hockey, whether Brant's here or not. Some of these players are going to come back next year, and I think this is a good thing. I wanted to bring it up because I thought it was a great conversation. I thought we were going to do this on Wednesday, but unfortunately, I just spoiled all that fun right now.
Well, I mean, I think it's a good thing to talk about because, we had, McKallip and York play this past weekend. And obviously, Jeremy and I were there for the game on Saturday, and to kind of watch these college rookies come out after the game and see the 10s and 20s of 30s, however many people were. I don't even know how many of us were out there. Yeah. There was a decent amount of us out there waiting for these players to come out. And, you get the first couple guys that come out and everyone's getting their signature. And then, these college rookies come out and, well, everybody still wants their signature. And it's, you can kind of like see the look on their face where they're almost taken back maybe a little bit. And McKallip was like all for it. He was setting his gear down. Like they're struggling to get their bags out. And somebody had made a comment that poor Bondarenko, like his bag was bigger than him. It's a goalie bag. They're huge. They're massive. Yep. And these players are trying to get to the bus and they got to lug all this stuff out there and make several trips, but they still take the time to either set down their stuff and interact with the fans, or they take their stuff to the bus and then come back to interact with the fans. And it's one of those things about the players on this team.
Yeah. And let's be honest. We're not talking about you went an hour to go see the team play. It's like a 2.5 hour wait, 2 hours and 30 minutes to go to Watertown to watch a game. Correct, Taylor?
Yeah, probably. I think it's like 2 hours for us, and we're in Whitney Point. So yeah, probably 2.5 hours from Binghamton.
Right. And so like these rookies are coming out and going, wait a second here. There are fans that want to see us after the game. Listen, these players are warned by the other players on the team that the fans in Binghamton are great, that you're going to play in front of 4,800. You're going to play in front of a sellout. They're going to want your autograph after the game down in the corner. And, oh, by the way, they travel to Port Huron. They travel to Watertown. They travel to Danbury to see us play. We've had fans that traveled to Blue Ridge that weekend. There was just a ton of people down there, right? And so these players are going to get treated, as Kyle Steffen said so eloquently on the show last year. He said, we are treated like we're playing in the NHL. And he goes, and that's what's so amazing about Binghamton hockey and the community here. So I think, before I get too sappy and have tears in my eyes, I'm going to read this next ad read so we can get into Saturday's game. Okay. Support the Power Play Post Show by subscribing on YouTube. When you subscribe and like episodes, it signals to YouTube that hockey fans are engaging, which helps recommend the show to more viewers. As our community grows, we are able to deliver more interviews, insights, and hockey discussions. We're going to have a fun one this upcoming Thursday, I promise you. Subscribing and liking is the most effective and completely free way to support the show. Join fellow hockey fans and subscribe on YouTube today. All right, Taylor, let's get into Saturday's game. There's a lot to talk about from this game.
So as we're back in Watertown versus the Watertown Wolves, March 7th, 2026, Watertown Arena, game 46 of the season, Binghamton Black Bears at Watertown Wolves. The Binghamton Black Bears wasted no time taking control of the game in the opening period, erupting for 4 goals in the first 9 minutes against the Watertown Wolves. Binghamton struck first on the power play after Dustin Henning was called for tripping at 4:07. Just 10 seconds later, Scott Ramakers picked up right where he left off from the night before, scoring nearly from the same spot to give the Black Bears a 1-0 lead. At 4:17, Gavin Yates and Dan Stone picked up the assist on the play. The Black Bears kept pressure on and doubled their lead. Only 31 seconds later, Gavin Yates was stationed in front of the Wolves goaltender Ricardo Gonzalez, where he buried the puck at 4:48 to make it 2-0 for Binghamton. The goal was a milestone marker for Yates, as it was his 100th career goal as a Black Bear. Zach Sirota and Tyson Kirkby recorded assist on the goal. Binghamton's offense surge continued moments later. At the 5:10 mark, Dan Weber scored his 3rd goal of the season, extending the lead to 3-0, with assists credited to Cheechoo Lathlin and Garrett Sargis.
And he was credited with the goal.
We'll get into the Cheechoo thing later, I'm sure.
Okay.
The Black Bears weren't done yet. At 8:22, CJ Stubbs added to the onslaught as onslaught when he tipped a shot from Dan Weber past Gonzalez for his 34th goal of the season, pushing the Binghamton lead to 4-0. Ivan Bondarenko also picked up an assist on the play. The physical side of the game surfaced midway through the period when Tyson Kirkby and Trevor Newman dropped the gloves at 10:24, each receiving a 5-minute fighting major in what was a spirited bout between the two. After 20 minutes, the Black Bears held a commanding 4-0 lead while also outshooting the Wolves 15-7. It was also a memorable opening period for Marshall McKallip, who made his first professional start in goal for Binghamton, while the Wolves countered with Ricardo Gonzalez in net. The night also marked the professional debut of Matthew York, the son of longtime NHL defenseman Jason York, who played 14 seasons in the NHL, which we've kind of already talked about.
Yes. All right. Scratches. Jesse Anderson and Cam Cervoni, Kyle Steffen, Sam Holy, Emerson Emery, and Dominic Tomei got the night off. Starters in this game was CJ Stubbs, Mac Jansen, Ivan Bondarenko, Austin DeRazio, Dan Stone, and Marshall McKallip. If you didn't know, making his debut was Matt York. So we talked about this already. His father played 14 seasons, 757 games for Detroit, Anaheim, Ottawa, Nashville, and the Boston Bruins. Now, the Black Bears got their first power play of the game with Dustin Henning getting tagged for tripping at the 4:07 mark of the first period. Scotty only needed 10 seconds after the tripping call to Henning to score on the power play to score the game's first goal. Now, that was the only power play goal of the weekend, but I already talked about how that I'm not happy about that. I'd rather see them score on the power play because those are the advantages you're going to want to take in the playoffs. That was Gavin Yates' 23rd goal of the season. Important note, it looked like Cheechoo Lathlin, who has not seen his first goal, may have tipped in the Dan Weber goal, but he, after reviewing the goal, because I went back immediately. I immediately went back because I know people. I know where Cheechoo was. I know where Dan Weber was. I saw the shot come in. You could see Cheechoo reacting, right, to the puck coming by him. But the direction of the puck did not move. He definitely did not touch that puck.
And he 100% kept, he kept telling the players, coach, the fans, everybody that he did not 100% at all touch that puck.
Yeah.
But, we're on the other end of the ice and we all thought he tipped it.
Yeah.
Everybody started cheering. Everybody started shouting and, yee-hawing for him. And then as the announcer in the arena stated, it was Cheechoo's goal. So, it erupted again. Everybody was so happy for Cheechoo to finally get his goal.
Poor Dan.
Then obviously they reviewed the play and they made the change and it went to Weber, but everybody was still happy and excited. And it was one of those things where it's gotta happen this game because of that reason.
But this is exactly what happens to Dan Weber every single time he scores a goal. Something is controversial about the damn thing, right? And it's either getting reviewed or it's accidentally thought that, somebody chipped it in for their first goal. And then what is Dan going to do then? Like, wait a second here, but I don't think he tipped it in, but we're going to give him his first goal anyways. Nope. They got it right. So that was the important thing. The Stubbs goal was a shot sent in by Dan Weber. Talking about Dan again. Dan just can't stay out of the way of these controversial type of things, but it wasn't controversial. Stubbs definitely tipped in the shot that Dan Weber sent in. He was low in the slot, tipped in the puck past Ricardo Gonzalez. That was for sure. Trevor Newman and Tyson Kirkby dropped the gloves at the 10:24 mark. I thought it was a draw. I thought it was a spirited fight. I thought they both played well. Now, on camera, we didn't see it start. We kind of saw them talking to each other. Then the camera went to the left, and then it came back to them, and we got to see the fight. And it was, and again, definitely a good fight between the two. I'm sure Jeremy was very happy with the fight, right?
Yeah, I actually, because I took a video of it. I try to, if I'm at the arena and I have a clear shot to get a video, I try to take videos of stuff like that happening. Mm-hmm. I do the same thing for the goalie bump at the end of the game.
Yeah.
And right before I started the recording, he had said some choice words for Newman because and again, this came from another Watertown Wolf fan that Newman doesn't drop the gloves often. And we're like, well, Tyson really doesn't drop the gloves often either.
Not anymore.
So just kind of one of those things where, they thought, somebody said that to them, it seemed like it was planned because both players don't typically drop the gloves that often.
No.
And so it was just one of those conversations, but
I don't think Tyson would plan a fight like that. I think something
I don't think so
happened.
either. I think, because I rewatched it before we started recording just because I didn't know if we were going to talk about it in, great detail or not. Because, what happened with DeRazio was just an interesting thing to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And so I kind of like went back to watch it to see if I could if I felt any different about it. Because when it happened originally, I was like, well, DeRazio went in, obviously got hit. He took a weird hit. He hit something funny and just went down.
Yeah.
And I was like, but Tyson, because I thought, well, maybe Tyson didn't see it, and he turned around and DeRazio's on the ice now, and Newman is right next to him, so maybe he thought something happened.
Mm-hmm.
But Tyson watched the whole thing happen. But at the same time, Newman also knew DeRazio was coming in, so maybe he put his body in a weird position to kind of catch DeRazio. Because it kind of looked like Newman went to move his stick and his elbow came up. And I think that's what DeRazio ran into. I'm not entirely sure, but that's kind of what it looked like on video. I don't think, again, Newman didn't do it on purpose type of thing, but he kind of knew DeRazio was coming in. So I don't know. It was definitely a weird sequence to kind of happen. DeRazio got right up and he was okay, which is, the more important thing. But
yeah,
it was definitely interesting to kind of see Newman and Tyson go at it. And if the camera panned away, you didn't miss anything because they did start talking and Tyson kept shaking his hand like he was going to drop his glove. And that took quite a bit. And then Tyson finally flung his glove off and they still kind of went back and forth. It was a while before they actually kind of grabbed a hold of each other. So you didn't miss anything before the fight actually started.
I wonder if Tyson looked at Trevor Newman and said, Newman. Now, if you don't understand that reference, you're not old enough. Okay. A nice few hits by Austin DeRazio and Jacob Jacquard tonight for the Black Bears. I thought on Saturday night in the first period, they laid a couple good hits. So the period had a little bit of everything. Okay, on Saturday night. Great period for the Black Bears in the first period. McKallip saw 7 shots and handled them with no issues. One of the nice things that I like is you get a goaltender through his first 20 minutes, brand new goaltender, playing his first pro game, no goals, just a minimal amount of shots. It's an excellent way to start a goaltender off.
Yeah, that's kind of another reason why I think the Black Bears just played a way better game on Saturday. You have this rookie goaltender coming in, and for me, and I've never played hockey. I've never been a goaltender. I've never wanted to be a goaltender, but for me, I would have the feeling of like this is the real deal now. This is
right.
It's got to be nerve wracking almost to me, and for them to kind of limit the amount of shots that he saw, so he could kind of get used to it, kind of warm up to it, get a feel for the arena. In that sense, I think it was just awesome for them to play that way in front of him.
Power play opportunities. Binghamton was 1 for 1 in the first period, and Watertown did not have a power play opportunity. Shots on goal, Binghamton 15, Watertown 7, kind of taking over and kind of repeating a little bit what happened in the third period on Friday night. Let's go into the second period.
The offensive surge for Binghamton continued in the second period as the Black Bears added 4 more goals to their already commanding lead. Binghamton wasted little time extending the advantage as Austin DeRazio scored just 1:01 into the period, firing a shot past the Wolves goaltender Ricardo Gonzalez to make it 5-0. Mac Jansen and Ivan Bondarenko were credited with the assist on the early tally. The Black Bears struck again midway through the period when Cheechoo Lathlin recorded a milestone moment, scoring his first professional goal with a wrist shot at 10:49 to extend the lead 6-0. Tyler Schwint and Garrett Sargis assisted on the play.
Okay, hold on.
Give me 2 taps and a Ric Flair.
And that's for you, Cheech. Congratulations, Cheech. I am so very proud of you. Happy. I've had a lot of conversations with Cheech off air about his play this year. He's been, very kind to every once in a while ask me, what I thought about what I saw on the ice, and I've tried to give him something. The one thing that I've noticed about Cheech, and based on what I've heard about his play as playing junior hockey and then playing some college, is that I don't feel like his confidence had been there this season yet. I'm hoping that a game like Saturday night is the game that's going to unlock Cheechoo Lathlin, because Coach Sherwood has said some nice things about Cheech, some of the players. And then when you saw the reaction by Austin DeRazio, who I will say, Austin DeRazio wants to come back on the show. I mean, he requested 3 weeks ago, can I come back on the show? I want to talk. I want to come on the show. And Austin is a guy who will shoot first, pass second. And I'm not saying that to be mean. He's got a great shot and he's scored some goals and he's our highest scoring defenseman this year. So I'm not saying that in a bad way. How happy he was for his teammate Cheech to get that goal just said so much more about Austin than it really does anything else, about how he really wanted to see Cheech get that goal and join the club, right? All the regulars have now scored a goal. So I'm very happy for Cheechoo. I know you are. I know Kelly is. I know there's a lot of fans that have been picking him in the last, 4 or 5 or 6 weeks to be the first goal scorer. Well, who cares about that now? He's just got the goal. That's the important thing. I just thought it was a great moment. And I know I'm talking probably a little bit too much about someone's first goal. But Cheech is I'm talking to Cheech as much as I have. I just want to say that he is just a really good dude, and I am so very happy for him.
Yeah, I don't think you were, overdoing it or anything by talking about his first goal, because it's something that it's been talked about for months now. I mean, Brant's Christmas wish, getting Cheechoo a goal, and it finally came to fruition. It finally happened. But even outside of him just getting the goal, he had a 4-point night, and that was amazing in itself. So I think we're kind of starting to see him truly break out, and what a time for that to happen. I mean, you were coming up on the end of the season. We're going to be heading into playoffs soon. So if this is something that, he's going to turn into a butterfly now and start, getting goals and hammering on assists and stuff, I'd be worried about the other teams. And my favorite point is the one that I'm going to say next, because to me, it was kind of funny.
Well, yeah. So the other thing I want to bring up about Cheechoo is there were fans outside the arena, as you were there and you've already talked about, and there were chants for Cheechoo. Can you talk a little bit about that for a second? Because even Brant got involved.
Oh, I mean, even like before, so there was chants for the Dan Weber goal that was everyone originally thought was his. There was Cheechoo chants going when he scored his goal. The Cheechoo chant lasted for a long time, and like even after it stopped, like the bench wanted us to keep going and start it back up again. And then after the game, when we were outside and, your first handful of guys come out and they're carrying their stuff to the bus. Well, Cheechoo finally comes out and everyone just starts in. Like the second you saw him, just all the fans out there started the Cheechoo chant again. And then it died down a little bit because, he was signing autographs. He was, talking to some people.
Right.
And Dominic Tomei, who was coming back from the bus to go back inside to grab more supplies, started the chant up again.
That's awesome.
And it was so funny. And then as Brant was coming out, he was like, the highlight of the game to Brant was his goal. Like, it didn't matter about anything else in the game. He's like, yeah, there were a lot of great moments, but that was the one that mattered. And it's so awesome to just everybody was so ecstatic about this one goal. That's why I don't think, taking this time to talk about it is anything out of the ordinary and something that it should be talked about. It truly should be.
Because if the players on the team and the head coach in a 10-2 game where Gavin Yates scored his 100th goal and his 101st goal as a Black Bear, I got to be honest with you guys, that says a lot about what they think of Cheechoo Lathlin. Now, let's continue on because this is like your favorite point to this.
So following Cheechoo's goal, Watertown made a change in its net as Ricardo Gonzalez was replaced by Grant Linville. And to me, it's just funny because they won all those goals. And then, they must have known like Cheechoo hadn't had any goals this season. And he finally scored. So like, we're changing goalies. That's it. That was the line for them.
Yeah, that was goal number 6. So they kept him in there for 6 goals. Cheech gets his goal. The place erupts. And we're not talking about Binghamton, right? No, we're talking about, and let me tell you right now, if there's anybody from the Black Bears listening to this right now, if you guys have a good call of that, please rerun that on Friday night. Somewhere within the broadcast in the arena, show Cheechoo scoring his first goal. To me, let the fans in Binghamton also kind of enjoy the moment. Any of the ones that weren't up in Watertown, maybe they didn't get to see it because they didn't watch the game for some reason. I'm telling you right now, if you've got the clip it and put it into the broadcast. Have Josh Williams put it up on the video board. run it, because I think it'll make everybody happy, and there will probably be some pretty big cheers for Cheechoo, and well-deserved.
Oh, I'm sure they're going to start up the Cheechoo chant again. I'm sure it's going to come, because I almost guarantee they're going to want the whole arena, the whole home base to kind of get in on this. And I don't know if Lathlin's ready for that. He was, he's kind of, he definitely didn't really know how to take it at the game. And when we're outside, there isn't that many of us compared to especially a home ice, kind of game. But he definitely was kind of, I don't know if he was taking it all in or if he just didn't really know how to react, but it was definitely something. And I kind of hope he gets the hometown feel. I think he was the only one that didn't celebrate. Even Aiden, did you see Aiden on the players bench? I mean, Aiden was like, yeah, fist pumping everything for this goal. Again, fans, I know we're talking a lot about someone's first goal, but he is a special kid, and I absolutely love him, and I'm so happy for him. But let's continue on with the second period. Well, just because you brought up Aiden for a second, we sat right behind him.
Yeah.
And I don't remember when it was or who. I'm pretty sure it was a Black Bear player. But they had slapped a shot right next to the bench, and it came up, and you would have thought Aiden's head was coming off. Like, he was so worried, and he ducked and then looked around like he was scared. Everyone else around him was like, "Oh man, you better watch out." And then after that, you saw him he just kept ducking when they got close to him. But it was definitely a close call, and they were definitely headhunting right there.
That's funny.
So that was a funny moment, and you just brought up Aiden, and it made me think of it. But anyways, the Wolves were finally able to get on the scoreboard shortly after the goaltending change. At 12:19, Reese McDonald scored for Watertown with assists from Igor Filippov and Ian McDonald, cutting the lead to 6-1.
So many McDonald's on there.
I know. We didn't even realize that at first, because I think Friday night's game, Reese, his number, Jeremy was, because obviously they don't have nameplates, which is one thing that really bothers me.
Oh, what are you talking about?
He had a nameplate in Saturday's game, but he did not have one in Friday's game.
Well,
because in Friday's game, he was like, "Who's what number? Who's that player?" So I looked it up, and I was like, "Oh, it's McDonald." And he goes, "There's another one?" And it didn't dawn on me that it wasn't Ian McDonald. And I was like, no, this one's Reese.
And I'm pretty sure they spell it the same way too, because I did double check that. But there are McDonald's out there, which are MAC, and then Donald. So, which is very interesting.
Binghamton quickly answered to regain their 6-goal cushion. Just 51 seconds later, Captain Tyson Kirkby blasted a shot past Linville at 13:10 mark, giving the Black Bears a 7-1 lead. Cheechoo Lathlin and Zach Sirota picked up the assist on the play.
Yeah. No, sorry, go ahead. Keep going.
The Black Bears capped off scoring in the period late in the frame when Garrett Sargis tallied Binghamton's 8th goal of the night at 17:32, finishing a play set up by Nick Swain and Austin D'Orazio to make it 8-1, heading into the second intermission. The only penalty of the period came late when Austin D'Orazio was called for elbowing at 18:37. After 40 minutes, the Black Bears held a commanding 8-1 lead, while the Wolves held a slight edge in the second period, shots 14-12. There were also several notable individual achievements during the period. Ivan Bondarenko's 2 assists on the night tied him with Kyle Powell for the Black Bears' single-season assist record with 67, a mark Powell set during the franchise's inaugural 21-22 season. Additionally, Tyson Kirkby recorded a Gordie Howe hat trick, finishing the period with a goal, an assist, and a fight.
All right. So, obviously, she just mentioned it. Bondarenko, 2 assists, now tied with Kyle Powell for 67 assists in one season. So that's very interesting. Cheechoo scored his first goal of the season. All the players, everybody went crazy. We talked about that. Ricardo Gonzalez was replaced by Grant Linville. And now that is Grant Linville's first professional playing time as well. That was at the 10:49 mark. Black Bears scored 8 goals from 8 different players. At that point, it was 8 goals from 8 different players. Kirkby with the Gordie Howe. Okay, perfect. Another 4 goals from the Black Bears. They are getting into the high reward areas on the ice. What I mean by that, they're playing in that slot area on the ice, and they're doing it very well. And that's so huge. And I talk about it when we're talking about, shootouts. When you come into the middle and you make a goaltender have to make a decision, do I go down? Do I go up? If you can get them to commit to that before you take your shot, the the player, the forward, the skater coming in has a better chance at that. And the Black Bears did that so very well on Saturday night. Now, power play opportunities, Binghamton had none, and neither did Watertown. Shots on goal, Binghamton 12, Watertown 14, 27-21, a Binghamton lead. Let's go into the third period.
The Wolves opened the scoring early in the third period, striking just 43 seconds into the frame when Darian Benchik scored his 5th goal of the season against his former team. Benchik finished a play set up by Yefim Mishkin and Quinn Shevers, cutting the Black Bears lead 8-2. Binghamton responded quickly and continued their offensive dominance. At 4:14, CJ Stubbs netted his 2nd goal of the night and 35th of the season, restoring the Black Bears' 7-goal advantage. Mac Jansen and Cheechoo Lathlin were credited with the assist on the play. The Black Bears then reached double digits midway through the period. At 8:21, Gavin Yates scored Binghamton's 10th goal of the game, finishing a play from Dan Stone and Tyson Kirkby to cap off the scoring and extend the lead 10-2. Watertown took 4 penalties later in the period. Aaron Atwell took a roughing call at 10:19. Adam Zimmerman took a cross-checking at 11:47. Quinn Shevers took a slashing call at 12:13. And Adam Zimmerman, again at the 19:48 mark, took an interference call. Were all sent to the box. Though the Black Bears were unable to add to their already seizable lead, Binghamton continued to control the pace of the play throughout the final frame, outshooting the Wolves 19-8 in the third period and finishing the game with a 46-29 advantage in shots on goal. With the victory, the Black Bears improved to 39-5-2 on the season, earning their 15th win over Watertown in 16 meetings this year.
Boring.
The win also reduced Binghamton's magic number to 5 points to clinch the Empire Division title as the league's top team continues its dominant run toward the postseason.
All right, so third period notes. Stubbs is the first player to score more than 1 goal in the game, and then, of course, Gavin Yates changes that. He scores his 2nd goal of the game, joining CJ with multiple goals. Not sure how to take this game versus yesterday's. We've kind of talked about that a little bit, and I was thinking about that a lot after Saturday night. Did Watertown play better on Friday defensively? Both of us kind of agree with that. Or did the Black Bears turn up the gas on Saturday night? I think that's true too, right? So I think we're probably saying that Friday night, the Wolves played well defensively, but the Black Bears turned up the gas on Saturday, correct?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I mean, if not, I was just going to say it's because we showed up to the game on Saturday and they just wanted to, bring in 10. Or it's because they really wanted those ice cream sandwiches and they got 10 goals.
Oh, explain this, because I don't know if the fans know this. This is secret information. I don't know if we're even supposed to release this information, but the guy on the team who is all about fitness and eating right and all the hardcore regiment, explain to the fans what he did.
So after the game, you can usually meet the bus of players over at the Burn Dairy right across the street where they, get their snacks or whatever else for the long trip home, that 2 hours. And Jeremy had gone inside and he comes out and he goes, Quinville's in there and he's got 1 big box of the Burn Dairy ice cream cookie sandwiches and then 1 small box on top of that to make sure every player gets one. And he was like, somebody had said something to him about it. And he goes, for getting double digits, it's well earned or well deserved or something like that, or everybody's getting one, something along those lines. But it's just kind of funny how I guess if you want to have a sweet treat, you got to get double digits.
So the guy who I say is the biggest hard ass on the team is going out and getting the guys ice cream just because they scored 10 goals. I don't know, John. We're going to have to talk about this next time you're on the show. That's all I'm going to say. That's all I'm going to say here. All right, Black Bears win their 15th and 16th meetings, 15 of 16 meetings so far versus the Wolves. Black Bears' magic number is reduced to 5 in the Empire Division. Now, the Prowlers won again on Saturday night. So the Black Bears got no help from the Indiana Sentinels at all this weekend. The Black Bears can still clinch the Empire Division next Friday night as they host the Port Huron Prowlers at the Vision Veterans Memorial Arena. We'll talk about that in just a few minutes because milestones and special notes from this weekend. Let's cap this off before she caps off, all the craziness of the stats. Marshall McKallip earned his first pro win, only allowing 2 goals. Great performance by him. Would you not agree?
Oh, I definitely agree.
Okay. Gavin Yates scored his 100th goal as a Black Bear, and then, of course, his 101st as well. Cheechoo, obviously, we talked about it in detail, scored his first goal as a pro. It took a little bit longer than everybody thought it was going to, especially Cheechoo, I can tell you that for sure. And Bondareko registered his 67th assist this season, tying Kyle Powell for the Black Bears for the most assists in one season. This is the 8th game of the season where the Black Bears have scored at least 8 goals in the game. That's nuts to think about, because if you divide 8 into 46, it's not a number that I can come up with right at the moment, but man, it's just nuts that they've done that. This is the 3rd game of the season where the Black Bears have scored double digits on 12-20-25 versus Danbury, 11-3 win, and then a 10-4 win in Watertown on 2-20-26, and then a 10-2 win on Saturday night just now, also in Watertown. So they've done that a couple times now in Watertown where they've scored at least 10 goals. Next
So
Saturday,
what you're saying is 3 times this season they might have had ice cream sandwiches.
that is a possibility. I don't know for sure, but it is very possible. All right. So obviously this upcoming Friday, Binghamton, Port Huron, if Binghamton wins the game in regulation, they will clinch the Empire Division title. Okay. So that's very, very important, because then the next thing they go for is home ice advantage throughout the playoffs. So we'll talk about that next week. Okay. So power play opportunities in the 3rd period was Binghamton 0 for 1 and Watertown 0 for 1. Shots on goal, Binghamton 19, Watertown 8, 46 for Binghamton total, and Watertown 29. Let's get through these numbers, because I really want to talk about Port Huron a little bit to kind of preview our preview coming up.
Black Bears dominate Wolves, win 10-2. CJ Stubbs scored his 34th and 35th goals of the season. Gavin Yates scored his 23rd and 24th goals of the season and assisted on another for a 3-point night. His 2 goals tonight were his 100th and 101st as a Black Bear. Cheechoo Lathlin scored his first goal of the season and assisted on 3 others for a 4-point night. Tyson Kirkby scored his 19th goal of the season, assisted on 2 others for a 3-point night, and had a fight, earning him a Gordie Howe hat trick. Austin D'Orazio scored his 21st of the season and assisted on another for a 2-point night. Dan Weber scored his 3rd of the season and assisted on another for a 2-point night. Scott Ramaker scored his 13th of the season. Garrett Sargis scored his 12th goal of the season and assisted on 2 others for a 3-point night. Ivan Bondarenko assisted on 2 goals, tying Kyle Powell single season record in assists with 67. Zach Sirota assisted on 2 goals. Mac Jansen assisted on 2 goals. And Dan Stone assisted on 2 goals. Marshall McKallip earned his first professional win, saving 27 of 29 shots. The Black Bears record improves to 39-5-2 with 116 points, staying atop of the Empire Division, inching closer to a division title. Black Bears' magic number to clinch the Empire Division is now 5.
Okay, take a breath. All right. So the next game versus Port Huron on Friday becomes an important game. But how hard does either team push? That's kind of the curiosity there. Port Huron suspensions before the game, that's a question mark. Port Huron season series versus Indiana has been intense and could see suspensions coming out of the last game from Saturday night. And the Black Bears beat the Prowlers in regulation, will win the Empire Division for the 2nd straight season. Okay, so Taylor, please explain to the fans why I'm saying Port Huron suspensions before this upcoming game. Can you, even if you don't go into complete detail, can you talk a little bit about what happened Saturday night? Because I think you were driving home. You were sending me messages about it saying, hey, this happened. This could affect the players that are going to be available for Port Huron on Friday night.
Yeah, well, the players in question, it will be of no shock to anybody who's paid attention to anything we've talked about when it comes to Port Huron.
Right.
So that should be one indication. Another one was I was actually in the process of I was typing my impact players, and on the way home from games, he likes to check. Jeremy will check the out of town, games and see if anything interesting happened. So I really have to give him credit on this, because he'll tell me like, oh, I need you to go to this game and go to this time. So I'll pull it up and we'll kind of watch it together and, talk about it. And Port Huron definitely had some interesting things happening in their game, and some pretty dangerous things happening as well that actually sent a player off the ice who I believe, as they said on the broadcast, was bleeding from the back of his head. And there was, not to get it too grotesque here, but they said that there was a lot of it on the ice. And I didn't see it. You don't see it on the broadcast of how much or what, like how bad it was. You see the player eventually get up and skate off the ice, which was, of course, a good thing to see. But I don't know if he ever returned back to the game. Definitely a lot of interesting things happened, a lot of dangerous things happened, but to me, that's Port Huron's MO.
Yeah.
So I will definitely be absolutely astonished if there are no suspensions from this.
Yeah.
Because again, it was dangerous, and nobody, I don't care if you want to go out and fight somebody. I don't care if if the rivalry is that bad where you've got 50 fights in one game, because Port Huron's had many games where they've had fight after fight after fight. You want to fight somebody, fight them if that's the thing. But to go out there and to have a team go and face Port Huron and worry that their team is going to leave the ice injured is just ridiculous in my book.
It's what's wrong with Port Huron. That's what it comes down to. When one of our players, one of our Black Bears says they're not just physical, that they are violent, that's scary to me. I think that the Black Bears need to win this game, put them out of their misery, put the Port Huron Prowlers out of even the remote possibility thinking, oh, we can beat the Black Bears. I want them to beat them this game. And then the last game that they play against them, I want them to go into the playoffs going, okay, we were only able to beat the Black Bears once this season, because they're a scary team in the sense of when they feel that they need to push back. Now, whatever Indiana has done to them, a couple of the players that were, Ryan Glazier is the guy that obviously was on Indiana, that did the little kicking motion with his skate, in a game versus the Port Huron Prowlers, that got everybody all riled up about this little rivalry that's happened between these two teams. And he's no longer with that team anymore. And yet they allowed Brian Parsons on Saturday night, after Reggie McKallip was in his fight where he's probably going to get suspended because he was tagged with the aggressor penalty. And I don't know, man, how many he's had this year, but he's probably going to get a game or two. Okay. So we know that. But then you have an Indiana player who's just standing there. He's paired up with another Port Huron player, which is Brian Parsons, and they're kind of skating away. And then they get over towards the other side, all the way on the far side of where Reggie Millette and that whole fight and that whole scrum is. And they kind of get up next to the boards. And I'm wondering if Brian Parsons was wondering, I don't think anybody sees me. And he basically pushes the player down onto the ice, slams his head up against the ice. Now, guys, I'm okay with a fight. I'm okay with if you drop the gloves. Matter of fact, when they did the 3 fights that were in the first 18 seconds of either the Friday night game or the Saturday night game, I don't remember which one it was. I'm okay with that. Fine, whatever. You're putting on a show for the fans. You don't like each other. That's great. But when you are kind of shyly kind of moving away from the whole situation that was happening in front of you, and then you dangerously, I'm sorry, I don't care who's listening to the show. I don't care if it's somebody from the league, the executive board. I don't care if it's anybody from Port Huron. You guys can listen to this all day long. I'm going to tell you right now, Brian Parsons is a piece of crap for doing what he did to that kid. And then Jamie Bussell has to, on your team, go and run or skate over as quickly as he can, grab the trainer to come over there because the kid's bleeding on the ice. For what? You didn't even throw a freaking punch. That's the worst part about this. That was violent. It's stupid. It doesn't belong in the game. Get your ass out of the game. Brian Parsons, maybe you should retire. Maybe you should go be I don't know, anything. Go do garbage somewhere. What you did to that poor kid, this is not even a Black Bear player. I don't care. It's just not something that needs to be on the ice. And when one of our members of our team says, no, they're just a violent team. They're not even physical. They're just violent. That says a lot about your team. And I'm sorry, Matt Graham, Chris Pollan, Will Wiggleman, if you're listening to this, I hope you guys get this message. That's garbage. That's not hockey. There's nothing about that that's hockey. That's just horrible, horrible. And I hope he's suspended. I hope he's not in the game, because I care so much about the Black Bears players because I get to know them. I don't want them to face that team because of the injuries that they cause to other people. This is Danbury 2.0 all over again. I haven't said that all season long. I didn't want to say it. But after watching that on Saturday night, and Taylor, I kind of wish you wouldn't have shown me that. I kind of wish you wouldn't have pointed me into that direction. But of course, it's important, right? Because the Black Bears have to play them this upcoming Friday in Binghamton, right? And unfortunately, I don't want us to play you. I want us to kick the crap out of you guys. I want to score 8 goals against you guys in a heartbeat, because you don't deserve to go into the playoffs. You don't deserve to play that kind of hockey that way, because that wasn't hockey.
Yeah, and the funniest thing about all of this to me is that it feels like the rest of the league is so used to, oh, well, that's just Port Huron, that literally nobody's talking about it. I haven't seen it talked about anywhere. I haven't seen anybody label Parsons as any kind of person. I haven't seen the video anywhere. I haven't seen anybody talk about it. And the only reason that we actually looked up the game was because Jeremy saw a post that they were talking about the Sentinels coach got kicked out of the game.
Right.
And that, he had all these penalties against the coach. So he's like, we've got to go look at this game. And that's when he's like, we need to go to this mark. And, I think it's the second period. And he's like, you got to start at this time and we'll just watch it. And it's Port Huron, but the only reason we went there is because somebody made a post about the Sentinels coach, but not about the Port Huron Prowlers. But yet, if somebody on the Black Bears did anything of that nature, not that they would, because we don't have those kinds of players here, but I'm just as an example, if somebody on the Black Bears did that, the entire league would be saying that they need to be banned for life.
Well, let's talk about it. Yeah, it did happen. CJ Stubbs threw that one kid, Corey Cunningham, while playing against Twin City, up against the boards. He slips and he falls and he hits his head on the red part of the boards. And they kind of blew up about that. And every time that Binghamton or Twin City comes up, they talk about, well, I can't understand why CJ Stubbs didn't get, suspended for that or whatever. Right? So but what Brian Parsons did had nothing to do with anything. That is just, it should not, I don't even care about Reggie Millette. He got his aggressor penalty, fine, whatever. But what Parsons did, that should have been a match penalty. I think they gave him boarding. They gave him a 5-minute major for boarding and a game misconduct for boarding. No, that should have been a match penalty. And I hope Dave Jackson, I hope somebody says this to him and says, maybe that should have been a match penalty. He should be suspended for a while. He needs to sit his ass down and realize that wasn't hockey. Whatever he thought he was doing, and Taylor, you got to go back and watch it. You really do, because to watch them kind of skate away, and they're not even doing anything. It's just kind of crazy. And then all of a sudden they get up towards the boards, and then he slams them down. And then he slams his head down on the ice. I'm not surprised he was bleeding.
I will go as far as to say they got rid of Daniel Amsbury from this league. He can't play in this league. He got suspended indefinitely from this league.
Yes.
And he's playing in different leagues and he's doing fine. I would bring him back over Parsons, because at least Amsbury, if he was going to fight somebody, you knew he was going to fight somebody. Like, that was his goal. He was out there to fight people. But what Parsons is doing is way more dangerous than what Amsbury was doing. And to me, that is saying a lot.
I can't agree with that one. But I understand where you're going with it. Generally, when Amsbury hit somebody, even if it was high and it was a part of a play, that wasn't part of a play. The whistle was blown. There was a fight going on, and they skated away. And what he did was terrible. I'm sorry. I don't care. He could be a freaking Binghamton Black Bear next year. And if someone forced me to talk to him, I'd be like, yeah, that was a pretty shitty play. I'm sorry. I've seen a lot of stuff in hockey that was pretty shitty. And I would tell him that. And if that means he never talked to me again, well, it wouldn't be the first time, somebody didn't like something I said and wouldn't talk to me. So I'm okay with that. But you know what? I'd rather stick up and defend for players than not. And not say anything at all. And I'm a passionate guy, and I get fired up, and I get it. And I know there are people out there for Port Huron that are going to 100% disagree with me and say that what he did was okay and that, that's part of the game. No, it's not. I'm telling you right now, a fight is a part of the game. Even getting an aggressor penalty is a part of the game, right? A little bit, okay? I'll give you that. What Parsons did, think about it objectively. Get out of your rose-colored glasses of whatever team you root for, watch that play, and you tell me it's okay, because it's not. Okay, I got way too fired up. I didn't think I was going to get that fired up.
Who would have thought that it would take this much for you and I to actually disagree on something?
Yeah. No, Amesbury's never allowed in
slightly
this
disagree.
league. Yeah, no, Amesbury shouldn't come back to this league. No, ever. He was hurting people left and right, and it wasn't just because of his fights. It was the way he was hitting people. He was doing it in a way. He did not belong in this league. He belongs in ECHL where people are bigger, stronger, faster, and can fight him. It's that simple. He does not belong in this league and should never be back. And he couldn't dial it back at all, which is why he needed to be up in ECHL like he does. And same thing with Mathieu Ballard. Mathieu Ballard, when he landed a hit, that was an ECHL style hit on people. That was an AHL style hit on people. That was not an FPHL style hit. There is a difference. I can tell you right now, single A hockey and double A hockey, they hit differently. And so those two guys belong there. I'm not saying that Mathieu did anything wrong to anybody, not like Amesbury. Their abilities are more ECHL quality versus FPHL quality. And with Amesbury, he was never able to not go over the edge. And so, all right, we're done. I have to stop. I'm actually warmer now than I was 10 minutes ago. And the temperature has not changed in this room, but my body temperature has. So, but either way, it'll be interesting. Fans, take a look at the boards. I'll probably post something when I hear something or see something on the transactions about Port Huron and whether or not a couple of their players get suspended, because I think they're going to, and I think the league has to. They have to send a message to Port Huron that it's not okay to be Danbury 2.0, because that's what they're turning into right now. And I didn't want to say that earlier in the season, but I'm going to say it now. They're turning into Danbury 2.0, which is funny because they had their little rivalry with the Danbury Hat Tricks. And so my question is, does Ben Brockway try to plant a flag in Binghamton? And if he does, which one of our guys goes after him? All of them, maybe?
Well, I was kind of hoping that he would get suspended in amidst this whole, shenanigans that happened with the Sentinels. But because, if you watch the video, the hit that Brockway does first starts the rest of all the shenanigans.
Yeah.
And I was kind of hoping that, because it doesn't look like a good hit. It really doesn't. The way that he goes into the boards, it just looked bad, but the player does get up fairly quickly.
Good.
And I think if he didn't return back to the game, that maybe it could have, been something to, possibly suspend Brockway. But I think because the player was okay, which again, great. I think Brockway just got away with it, unfortunately.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So we have a very special show coming up this upcoming Thursday. Should have a couple interviews. Taylor is going to be very heavily involved in those, in the one interview. So I'm very excited for that. I think Taylor is excited about it as well, even though she'll probably deny it. But it's going to be a great show this upcoming Thursday. And then, of course, on Friday is the Port Huron Prowlers returning to the Visions Veterans Memorial Arena. So we'll be previewing that as well. Okay. The Power Play Post Show is available on all major podcast platforms, including Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Pocket Cast, YouTube, Amazon Music, and iHeartRadio. Just search Power Play Post Show on your favorite app, and don't forget to subscribe. Join the conversation on Facebook. Search for the Power Play Post Show and become part of our community. Looking for everything Binghamton Hockey, visit binghamtonhockey.net. Thank you to Rob LaPaulis, our MC, John Petitucci, our musical director. I am Bob Howard. She is
Taylor Welch.
And we'll talk to you guys on Thursday, where we'll be giving away another 11x14 player poster. We'll talk to you next time right here on the Power Play Post Show.
Thanks for listening to this edition of the Power Play Post Show. Be sure to tune in next week to the Box Studios Radio Network for all the latest Black Bears news and interviews from around minor league hockey. The Power Play Post Show would like to thank John Patitucci for all the music you hear on the show. You've been listening to the Power Play Post Show.